Welcome to Global Trade Watch, where we analyze the most significant developments in international trade and diplomacy. I'm Robert Chen, Senior Trade Analyst, and your host today. We're discussing President Trump's recent announcement of a 25% tariff on Indian imports, which has sent shockwaves through the global trading system. Joining me is Dr. Sarah Kapoor, an expert in U.S. India relations and international trade policy.
Thanks for having me, Robert. This is indeed a significant development that deserves careful analysis. President Trump's announcement on July 30th caught many by surprise, not just because of the tariff itself, but also the harsh rhetoric that accompanied it.
Let's start with the basics. What exactly did President Trump announce regarding India, and how does it compare to tariffs imposed on other countries?
Trump announced a 25% tariff on all Indian exports to the United States, effective August 7th. What's notable is that this rate is higher than what he imposed on comparable Asian economies. For instance, Bangladesh received a 20% tariff, Vietnam also 20%, while Indonesia and Pakistan each got 19%. This differential has created significant concern among Indian exporters, who now face a competitive disadvantage.
That's an important distinction. Beyond the tariff itself, Trump also mentioned an unspecified penalty related to India's purchase of Russian oil and military equipment. What's behind this additional measure?
That's right, and it highlights the political motivations behind these tariffs. Trump specifically cited India's continued oil purchases from Russia and its historical reliance on Russian military equipment as justifications. He characterized India and Russia as dead economies that could go down together, language that was particularly inflammatory and unprecedented in diplomatic communications between allies.
Those are unusually harsh words from a U.S. president toward India, especially considering that Trump had previously called Modi my friend and described the U.S. India bond as special. What changed?
Several factors seem to be at play. First, there's genuine frustration over trade imbalances. India has a growing trade surplus with the U.S. that's expected to reach about $43 billion by fiscal year 2025. But beyond economics, there are clear geopolitical dimensions. India's refusal to condemn Russia's actions in Ukraine and its continued energy purchases from Russia have frustrated the administration. Additionally, India rejected Trump's claim that he brokered a ceasefire between India and Pakistan following the Pahalgam incident.
So these tariffs appear to be as much about diplomatic leverage as economic policy. What sectors of the Indian economy will be most affected?
The impact will be felt across multiple sectors. Pharmaceuticals are particularly vulnerable. India supplies nearly 47% of the U.S.'s pharmaceutical needs, and about 40% of India's pharma exports go to the U.S. The gems and jewelry sector, textiles, and electronics will also face challenges. According to some estimates, Indian goods worth about $87 billion could be affected, potentially shaving 0.5% off India's GDP growth.
Those are significant numbers. How has the Indian government responded to these measures so far?
India's response has been measured and diplomatic. The Commerce and Industry Ministry issued a statement noting that they were examining the implications while emphasizing their commitment to a fair, balanced, and mutually beneficial bilateral pact. The External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal stated that ties between the two countries had, quote, weathered several transitions and challenges, focusing on the substantive agenda rather than engaging with Trump's inflammatory rhetoric.
Interesting approach. Let's discuss the potential winners and losers from this trade conflict. Obviously, Indian exporters will struggle, but who stands to gain?
In the short term, competing exporters from countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Bangladesh could gain market share in the U.S. However, a fascinating analysis from SBI Research suggests that the U.S. economy itself might suffer more than India in the long run. They projected increased inflation, reduced GDP growth, and costs of around $2,400 per household for American consumers. Low-income families could lose approximately $1,300 due to higher prices, while pharmaceutical costs could rise due to supply chain disruptions.
That's an important counterpoint. Trade wars often create lose-lose scenarios. Looking forward, what paths exist for resolution? Is there room for negotiation?
Despite the harsh rhetoric, there are signs that both sides want a deal. Trump told reporters, "We're talking to India now, we'll see what happens," suggesting the door remains open. India is reportedly weighing options to placate the White House, including boosting U.S. imports. The pharmaceutical industry sees this as a negotiating tactic rather than a permanent policy shift. The planned September-October Trump visit to India could provide a forum for breakthrough, though it might be delayed if no progress is made beforehand.
Beyond the immediate trade issues, how might this affect the broader strategic relationship? The U.S. and India have built significant defense and security ties over the past 2 decades.
That's the greatest concern. The U.S.-India strategic partnership has been carefully nurtured across multiple administrations and has been based on shared democratic values and concerns about China's rise. The relationship has progressed from estranged democracies during the Cold War to engaged democracies today. Since 2008, India has purchased over $20 billion in defense hardware from the U.S., and military cooperation has expanded significantly.
And India has been part of the Quad alliance alongside the U.S., Japan, and Australia, which is central to America's Indo-Pacific strategy.
Exactly. If the trade dispute spills over into the security domain, it could undermine the Quad and broader Indo-Pacific cooperation. Some analysts have even speculated about a potential revival of the Russia-India-China trilateral format if U.S. reliability comes into question. However, given India's tensions with China and Russia's current dependence on Beijing, that seems unlikely to be a viable alternative for New Delhi.
As we wrap up, what should listeners watch for in the coming weeks as indicators of where this relationship is heading?
3 things to monitor. First, whether urgent trade talks produce any compromise before the August 7th implementation date. Second, whether Trump's planned visit to India proceeds as scheduled in the fall. And third, whether India makes any adjustments to its Russian oil purchases or signals willingness to open sensitive sectors like agriculture and dairy to U.S. imports. The diplomatic teams are working intensively behind the scenes, and we may see developments before the tariffs take effect.
Thank you, Dr. Kapoor, for this insightful analysis of a complex and evolving situation. To our listeners, we'll continue to follow these developments closely on future episodes of Global Trade Watch. For now, this is Robert Chen, signing off.
Thank you, Robert, and thanks to our listeners for joining us for this important discussion.